for me, the whole reason why I always held back on that, and you touched upon this a little bit, Quinn, was the fatigue aspects. Like we have these preconceived beliefs on how fatigue can positively or negatively affect performance. And as coaches, we tend to dictate those biases onto the lifters. And I think in a lot of cases, the fatigue is caused by us, not necessarily them and their actual performance.
One distinction there that you made versus what you used to do, you said you used to program, pre-plan low, medium, high stress days, regardless of what the athlete had. You were just assuming you're going to feel this way, kind of what you just said. You know, it's almost, you're probably going to feel beat up at this point in the block, and maybe they do feel beat up, but do they feel beat up just because they were expecting to feel beat up because you told them? And now it sounds like you just said sessions are heavy every single day. Can you qualify what heavy means in this regard, and how you reconcile that with like how fatigue comes up? Because I think this is the real crux of a dynamic system, is that you're kind of allowing the response to dictate future programming. Is that correct?
Yeah. So heavy for us, we're talking like I put RPE 8.5 to or above for 1 to 2 hard sets, but I want it heavier than an 8.5. I want it near failure for those lifts that we're doing. And basically what'll happen is when a lifter, I mean, I hate even using the fatigue for this, but if we see a small drop in performance on a day in the gym, like that's where we have a conversation. We decide what the best course of action is for that lifter on that given day. So it might be taking 3 to 5 moderate weight sets and just kind of feeling it out a little bit and just getting some work in. But ideally, when they come into the gym, they work up to, I give them suggested weights to work up to. It's not RPE based. It's not percentage based. It's every week kind of, it's almost like trying to predict the weather 7 days out, but I try to put a weight on there that I think is going to be extremely challenging for them, and they have the ability to make decisions. But I want spots on there. I want to see them straining through reps. And we do that all the time, every single day that we come into the gym. Yeah.
Well, I want to clarify for people listening too. The lifter is still very much in the driver's seat for a lot of this. It's based off how hard you feel that set's going to be, and he's going to give you a range. And I've done this with my lifters for a while. You work within that range. You work within, like if we're doing a rehab, you work within what's tolerable. And in this case, it's a hard set, but sometimes you're going to overshoot. Sometimes you're going to undershoot. You're in the driver's seat, and the communication between coach and athlete is very, very high. So it's not one of these things where it's all pre-planned and you just get, you run into a wall with intensity at some point. It's understood that the 8.5 and 9 might be less this week. It might be more than last week. He can tell you, I overshoot what I don't miss lifts, but I typically, because my ego is so big, go past what he writes every single week, every single day, just to kind of push myself, because that's the kind of lifter I am. But it's very lifter centric, and it's kind of what John Kiley talked about when we talked to him. The old school mentality was, I write this program, if it doesn't work, it's your fault. And what at least in my experience with this and a shift that I've made is, if this doesn't work, then it's something we have to work on, and communication has to step up. And it's much more lifter oriented than just lift heavy every day. Right. So I want people to understand it's very clear that there's a lot of communication there. The athlete has a part in this whole process, and it's lift heavy, but there's constraints in that.
And I think too, when, I would rather a lifter overshoot than undershoot, but there are times when we kind of talked about this briefly via text, John, that like about missed reps. Like I think missed reps they're important because they start to teach the lifter their capabilities. So if we're trying to enhance the training skill of each lifter, and that's what that communication, and that's what I view training as practice. We're practicing to be power lifters. And part of that is having a high level of skill in the gym to make those decisions that John was talking about. Like, let's see how we feel this day. Part of it's entering the gym and understanding that we don't know how our sleep, our nutrition, how much we hate our wives, or how much our jobs suck that day. We don't know how much that's going to affect performance. It's something that we understand is going on, but we come in the gym, we warm up, we see how it feels, we make decisions based off of how it feels. And sometimes you're going to make the wrong decisions. And error is how we learn best. So if you always come into the gym and you're always undershooting RPEs, or in the case before when I was running a Chico program, it's always easy. Under any circumstance, you can 100% complete that training. It doesn't tell you anything about the lifter and what they need to work on outside of just the mechanical aspects of lifting. There's zero emotional response to it. So if we're trying to improve that training skill of that lifter, that communication is extremely important, number one, but they're going to miss reps and they can't be scared of missing reps. And one issue I saw with the sub-maximal training was lifters got scared to miss reps because they felt they shouldn't miss reps. But failure is part of every sport. And it actually, in a lot of cases, will tell us a lot. And as we get into maybe more of the exercise design stuff, I literally will put them in positions that they'll fall over sometimes because it's punishing what I deem an inefficient technique, and they'll have to figure it out. And those large errors create large responses later on.